Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to explain selection mode in Etabs. Now, when we're trying to do things in Etabs, normally we have to select an element or several elements before doing something over those elements. Now, the way of selection in Etabs, we have different way. So I can click on element, you'll see there will be dash line, so it's selected. I can continue this way, click on several elements, not just the same type of element, I can select something else with them. So I can click on elements and everything will be selected one by one. If I use shift key and click back over them, or without shift, if you just click back over them, it will deselect them. So for example, you made a mistake, you can click back on the object, you'll deselect the object here. Now, in order to track the selection, at the bottom here, you'll see 2 frame selected. So at the bottom here, you'll see something say 2 frame selected. It's important to always check here when you select something to make sure you haven't select, let's say, a joint by mistake. If I'm trying to click somewhere, let's say here, you see the 1 joined 2 frame selected. If I click somewhere here, for example, I'll add 2 joined. Click somewhere else, you'll have another one. 2 joined, 2 frame, 1 shell, 9 edge selected. So whatever you select here, you'll be able to see it at the bottom of the screen here. If I press escape, nothing is there. This is one way when we're trying to select, you can click on the object. But this is not easy. So it can be done in a plan, it can be done in an elevation. It doesn't matter, the same things continues. Now to select the column in the plan, it's hard. For example, you select like this, you have 2 selections like this as well. Now the same thing, it goes in the Autodesk family. You have this selection, which is you go from the right to left or from left to right. Now left to right, only things within the area will be selected. Let's say I want to select these joints here or those links here. I'll try to put the links within the box, and you'll see they will be selected. So I can see it here, 4 joints, 1 frame, 3 links selected. The things that within the box will be selected. However, if I'm going from right to left, whatever will be cut by the area and within the area will be selected. Look, even the slab, the beams, the columns, the links, everything. 4 joint, 4 frame, 3 shells, 14 edges, 3 links been selected. So this is also available in Etabs in 2 ways. So if you want to select something that you can just provide a small, let's say, box around it, look at 2 joints and the link basically here with a frame, if there's a frame between them. This is another way that you can use it, whether with the other side you'll select whatever is within or being cut by the area. Now those will not give you a precise selection option. If I want only to select the column, or let's say I only want to, for example, select something that I want, or let's say I want to select the 25 by 60 columns. Well, I can go over them one by one to select them. But if I have a specific selection option, I cannot go with this type of selection. Those are easy if you just want one, for example, or just something you want to press escape, it will deselect. Anything that you've selected, escape will deselect them all. Instead of click them back over it one by one, you can also press escape, that will deselect them. Now those are fast selection while working with them. So because of this problem that we're facing, or let's say we don't have a lot of options while we're selecting with the methods that I showed to you, so Etabs the complete menu for select and deselection. So you can go and select things within the list here, which has a variety of selection. Now point, this is the thing that we tried to use them, intersection, point, with the area. The thing that I'm focusing on is the object type, properties, stories, and then it's basically we have grouping. I can group them together. But those are the ones that use them. There are some others you can use, but mainly I'll focus on object type, properties. Label can be used, but stories and all, and basically the same thing for deselect. Now, let's say you want to select everything. In a 3D, you'll just provide an area around everything. This is all selection. This is all selection. Whatever you have it within the project will be selected. But if you have a big project, it's not easy to go around all the project like this. You can just simply go to select all, everything will be selected. For sure here you're not going to miss anything if you go with this method. But with the other methods, if you miss something around one corner, then you realize that you'll be having somewhere that is unselected. For example, this joint here, this small section here, our link hasn't been selected. So make sure that whichever you're going to use, still the same way. Now let's say I want to select the columns for the first story. There is another way. I can go to elevation, or let's say I can even in 3D. I can go, for example, in this manner. Look, I'll bring it here, and I will just cut through the columns like this. Look, all the columns, 13 frame will be selected. I can do this way, yes? Well, I can do another way. I can go to select, and then from there, there's two ways. Object type. Now, object type basically, it tells you the type of elements that we have in Etabs. It can be wall, beam, column. So they will give you a type of object. It's a joint, columns. When you say columns, everything will be selected. Beams, every beams will be selected. Whatever we draw them as considered this beam will be selected. Opening, link. So many more objects that you have it. Let's say I want to select all the columns. I can click on the columns here. I'll select, and all the columns will be selected here. Now let's say I will duplicate this one because I have a question maybe comes to your mind. So let's say I'll duplicate this one, and I'll duplicate it, for example, to the story, the second story I have it. So I have the columns there. Now if I'm going back to the select and go back here, and let's say I'm going to select object type, and if I say columns, what will happen? Everything will be selected here. Yes. Now the two stories, first story and second story, columns will be selected. So if I'm going to, let's say if I want only the one at the bottom here, I have to deselect the top. I can use this method, for example, to deselect them, but I have to use shift with it to deselect. So if a shift does not work here, it didn't give me any negative things. Yeah. So I have to deselect. Well, this is not the way that we have to do. What can we do? Let's say we have everything. You go to select, object type, columns. You have everything. So if I close here, I have the selection. Now, normally we use deselect with select together, because when you do select, there is nothing to say columns in the first story. You don't have such things. You select with either all the columns here, or you can use different methods to selection. Let's say I did this way. Can I deselect the columns in the, let's say this is first story, in the second story? I can. We'll go select, deselect. Now here we have stories. You're not going to go back to the properties or object type. If I go back to object type and say columns, it will deselect whatever the columns I have selected. Deselect, we'll go like this. Now, in order to do this, we use stories. So whether you go from select or deselect, it will be the same thing. For example, go to stories. Here, whatever you have selected in the stories, you can deselect them. Let's say I want the columns for example, the second floor. So I can click on the top first floor deselect, the bottom story will be deselected. Only the one at the top will remain. I can select them back, but here if I click select, what will happen? I cannot use story selection because this is something else. We'll come back to this one. Well, let's press escape. Let's have some other selection. Say what does selection by story means here? Selection by story, whatever it's in the story will be selected. Let's say if I click here, whatever within the story, so the column, the beam, slab, joint, everything there will be selected, not the one above, only that one. So this is if you want to select one story, we use this one for copying. Let's say if you want to have a story and then you'll copy it, replicate it up, you'll select everything within the story in this manner. Then we can use replicate, which is copying to other stories. I can use this way in order to make copy. Look what we did, selecting everything within the story. So in the select, you have stories. So whatever within the story will be selected. So if I choose the top one, what I have in that story, only the columns for now. And show the joints of the columns as well. Deselect everything, I'll come back to normal. This is stories. So in the select, we have object type, and then we have stories. We'll use them a lot. However, there is another way for more specific. Let's say I want the columns at 60 by 25 by 60, whatever. I can go for properties here. Now in the properties, I can even select materials. Let's say if I have done any mistake or if I'm looking for something within the project. There are many more things that you can use them. Links, wall section. Let's say I'm going for frame section. Frame section will give me the frames available within the project. Let's say I want 25 by 60 columns. I can just click on it and it will only select the columns that are 25 by 60. So in this manner, whatever I want to do with them, I can change them. I can assign something to them. I can delete them. Only change will happen to the selected one. Well, let's say I can narrow it down. Can I deselect the top ones? Yes. I can go to select, whether from here deselect stories, and I'll say remove the one at the top. So deselect here, you'll see the one at the top deselected, only the one at the bottom remained. Well, let's say you're going to use something else. Now let's say you're going to go to plan, deselect everything like this, and you can go by deselecting the things that you don't want. That's also possible. Let's say you want to select everything without the slab. Well, it's not easy to go there and select one by one. You can select everything, whether from here or all. Let's say I'm selecting everything here. Then I can go deselecting. Select, deselect. What do I want to deselect here? Let's say I want to take the slabs out. Now there is two ways. I can go for object type, which I can simply select floors. Deselect the floors. You'll see the select will be the floors will be deselected. The rest of the things are selected. Whatever I want to take out from the selection, I can just simply click on them and say deselect. Let's say I'm taking the columns out of them. So if I basically at the bottom you see the number of selected objects. If there is an opening, I can just click on the opening and deselect it. And at the bottom you'll realize the thing's gonna change. Why? Whenever you deselect something, it will be taken out from the list. Let's say I'm taking the links out of them. So the links, we'll deselect them. Now only 59 joints, 18 frames selected. If I want to take the joints out as well, the joints out. So what I've done now, 18 frame basically means only the beams. I selected only the beams. Well, it's not a good way to select the beams like this, but I showed to you there is different way of the selection. With whichever suits you, you can use them for selection in Etabs. When we come to assign, we'll discuss this selection. How we do selection for assigning. So this is a way to deal with this. You'll be able to use others. There's others that we have polygon in section. For example, intersection lines. You can use them with grouping. It's basically you have to use some group, create some groups, then you can use them for selection. That's mainly will be used if you have things that always go similar. So you can create a group and always use for selection. Maybe they are a combination of things, beams and columns that you want always to be selected together. There's many more options for selection. But for the beginners, the one that you're going to use, those will be enough that we're dealing with them. Object type, properties, whether by material, frame section, or we have stories, select all, similar in the deselect that we have it here. Remember, you can still use the mouse to click on the things for selection if it's a specific thing that you wanted. With escape, it will deselect the things that you have. I believe this is enough. Let's say I'm gonna copy the slabs to the second story. I can go to select. I'm going to object type. I can say floors, select them. I need the opening. I can select the opening. Let's say I don't want to bring the beams for now, or I can bring all the beams. So the beams, basically I can select them if I want to. Select the beams as well. Now I've selected the beams, the shells, and basically the edge of this edge goes by the edge of the slab that I have. Close it, then replicating it to the story that I want. Then I have let's say I have this one here. Or maybe I don't have the opening there, so I can delete the opening if I don't want to. So with this selection, I could select, but here look, the links, because I didn't select them, they are not there. Can I do it? Yes, easily. Select object type, we'll go for the links. So every link which is they are available in the bottom story will be selected. Simply replicate them to the second story. Now I recommend the name of them here with the story rather than top of the story, because it might make some changes for you, or mistakes or misunderstanding. So apply, it'll go for the second story. So you can, when you talk about these things, I can name this one just second floor, like this. This is first floor. Our first floor, basically, this is base. Base, basically top of foundation, we have it. First floor, second floor. Or we can say ground floor if you are in the countries that they go with ground floor. So you can go ground floor, and the other one will be first floor. First floor, whichever suits the country that you're working. First floor. So base, remember, base is what? It's nothing. It's basically the bottom. There's nothing at the base except the top of the foundation. Then you have the floor, ground floor, and first floor, or you can first floor, second floor, whatever you call it. I prefer this name rather than the top of it. If you don't know, and if you're still beginner, it's better to go with the floor name rather than the name, the top of it. It's easier for copying. So let's say if I want to select something, if I go to stories, the name of, for example, ground floor, whatever it's in the ground floor will be selected. Whatever in the first floor will be selected like this. I believe this is enough for the selection. Are easy. There are previous selection who bring it back for you. If you select something, then you come back to it. It's also possible. Clear selection, it's rather than here, you can just press escape in the keyboard. It's easier than to use that rather than using this one here. Escape is easier. I believe that's enough for the selection. We have it here. Thanks for watching.